I welcome you to the class of social sciences, specifically religious education. Okay, so the first thing we are looking at Bible passage. Bible passage. Remember, this class is specifically for 2046 code of RA. Okay, so how do we answer examination questions in religious education on Bible passages? Remember, Bible passage carries 5 marks only. Okay, now for you to acquire that 5 marks, you must see to it that you come up with 10 points. Why have I said so? It's because 1 point there is 1 mark, is half mark. 2 points, 2 marks. So imagine if you have just managed to raise 5 points, that will be 2.5 marks instead of 5 marks. So you need to be very careful on that one whenever you are in religious education examination. Okay, so let us see how we can answer this particular question, which have been sampled from one of the past papers, and this is under the Jesus and Zacchaeus. So the question says, give an account of Jesus with Zacchaeus. So with me, I've put even the chapter, the scripture where you can get this story from. So this is Luke 19 verse 1 to 10. When you read that passage, you are able to narrate the story, which they want you to actually give an account for. Okay, so we can start like this. And the other thing is you should also write in a point form. Remember, instructions are part of exam. So you have to be very, very careful to follow the what? The instructions. So the first point, Jesus went into Jericho and was passing through. That's the first point. You are now giving an account. Okay. There was a chief tax collector named Zacchaeus. He was trying to see who Jesus was. So that same person where Jesus was passing, okay, in Jericho, when he went to Jericho, there was that man who was a chief tax collector. Now this person really wanted to see Jesus. The moment he just heard that Jesus was coming. But he was a little man and could not see Jesus because of the crowd. This person was very short, in other words, he was a little man. And hence he couldn't see Jesus because of the crowd that was there. Okay. Then so he ran ahead of the crowd and climbed a sycamore tree to see who Jesus was. So something came into his mind to say, I think for me to see Jesus Christ, since I want to see him, what the best I can do is just to run ahead of this crowd and climb a tree which is by the roadside so that I can see Jesus. And that's what he did. Okay? Jesus was going to pass that way. So that is where Jesus Christ was going. Okay? When Jesus came to a place, he looked up and said to Zacchaeus. So when Jesus reached to where Zacchaeus was, Jesus had to look up on that particular tree and saw Zacchaeus. And then he said, hurry down, Zacchaeus, because I must stay in your house today. So that's how he told him. Now imagine, this person really wanted to see Jesus. But Jesus himself commanded him to say, can you come down? I am going to stay to your house today. Zacchaeus hurried down and welcomed him with great joy. So Zacchaeus came down and welcomed Jesus Christ with a great joy. Okay, all the people who saw it started grumbling. So those people who saw it started now being surprised, perplexed, in other words. Okay, they were surprised. Okay, to saw that. So this man has gone as a guest to a home of sinner. So that's the question now they started to ask within themselves. So they were like, this man, who was Jesus Christ? They were actually referring to Jesus. This man has gone to the house of a sinner to be the guest there. What kind of a man is he? So they had a lot of questions within themselves. Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord. So what is there? Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, who was Jesus, listen, sir, I'll give half of my belongings to the poor. I'll give half of my belongings, because this person was actually a chief tax collector. So he had money. Okay. So now he started telling Jesus to say, I'll give half of my belongings to the poor. And he went on to say, and if I have cheated anyone, I'll pay back 4 times as much. So he was referring to those things that he was correcting from people. That if I've cheated anyone, I'll pay 4 times as much. I'll pay back 4 times as much. Then Jesus said to him, salvation has come to this house today, for this man is also a descendant of Abraham. So the reason why Jesus said that is because he knew what people was thinking. Okay. He knew what people were thinking. Therefore, Jesus made him to review this. That salvation today has come to this house. Okay? Has come to this house because this person is also a descendant of Abraham. You know the story of Abraham in the Bible. This man was promised a lot of things by God himself. Okay. And we are all the descendant of Abraham. So this is how you are supposed to narrate, or rather to give an account of a story when you are asked. Remember, this is an examination question, and this is the way you are supposed to write it in point form. So if you can do this, it means the all 5 marks is yours. And they have outlined the points. I've even gone beyond that. Okay, I've not just given 10 sentences, but they are more than that. So it's very, very important to answer like this. Thank you so very much for your attention. See you in the next class.